Hey guys, so today in class, I want you guys to do a little bit of a exploration activity first. So you should have a calculator and just like a scrap piece of paper. You might have been given the graphic organizer for today. You don't have to write on the graphic organizer at the moment. You could flip it on the back on the blank side. But I want you kind of to do a little bit of an exploration first. So using your calculator, I want you to use this quadratic function x squared. And we know that the quadratic function x squared starts in the middle and it's like shaped like a U. Today, we're going to be talking about transformations and how things move. So I want to see in the calculator if you guys can somehow make it move up, down, right, left, flip it upside down by like adding or subtracting numbers, by putting negatives in different places. What can you do to make it move? And that's what we're going to be working on. So I want you to take 5 minutes, pause the video, and go and see if you can make that x squared function move up, down, to the right, to the left, or flip it upside down. So hopefully you were able to do that. So now I want you to flip your graphic organizer back over, and now we're going to actually take some notes about how to definitely make something move up, down, right, left, and reflect it across the x-axis, move it, flip it upside down. Now, the rules that we're going to talk about work for all of your parent functions. So I know that during the exploration, you were just focused on x squared. We are going to be focusing on all of the different functions today as well. So hopefully you were able to get something to move it up. And in order to do that, if we come up here to our y equals button, and if I put my x squared function in, and just say that I graph that, okay, this is what our parent function looks like. This is the normal, it starts at 0 and it's the u like we talked about. At the end here, if I put an x squared, if I put a plus 5, and now we look at the graph, you can see that it's still the U, but it no longer starts at that 0, 0 mark and moved up 5 spaces. All right, so since it did that, we can say here that to move something up, we need to add a number, okay, to the outside. And this outside part I'll explain here as we go through. So an example would be y equals x squared plus 5. And again, you can use any of your functions. So we could use our absolute value of x plus 5. We could use y equals x to the third plus 5. And all of these would move things up 5 spaces. All right, so that one's pretty straightforward, very simple. So now moving it down a few spaces. So let's come back here. All right, and instead of, I'm still going to use x squared because it's just easy to see. Instead of adding, if we subtract a number on the outside, say I subtract 10. Okay, now instead of starting at that 0, 0 mark, like my parent function does, because I subtracted a number, it's moving down. Okay, so now we have an example of how to move down. Here we go. Okay, and that is by subtracting a number on the outside. Right, and again, some examples here would be y equals like an x squared minus 10, y equals the absolute value of x minus 10, y equals the square root of x minus 10, and all of these would be moving something down 10. Okay. Now, those were the easy ones. Hopefully you figured out how to get those to move. The harder ones is your right and your left. Okay, notice how I talk about this whole outside thing. All right, so the obvious thing or the other thing to think about would be on the inside. So if I come back here, I just want to show you guys the square root. All right, so your square root of x, if you look back at your parent function booklet, starts at 0, 0 and it kind of shoots off to the right. So if I want to move that to the right or to the left, I need to do something to the inside, meaning I need to do something underneath that square root sign. Because if you look at our previous example that I have here, if I put the square root of x and I close the parentheses up and I hit that minus 10, and then I graph it, all that did was move it down. I now want it to move right or left. So we need to move where those parentheses are. So if I put the square root of x and inside the parentheses, say I put minus 4 and then hit graph, that now moved it to the right. And yes, when I subtracted on the inside, it moved it to the right, which seems kind of silly. It seems kind of backwards, but that's just kind of how it's kind of how it works out. Okay, so let's put on here that to move it to the right, that means I need to subtract a number on the inside. All right, and what that would look like would be like y equals the square root of x minus 4. Notice how that minus 4 is underneath that square root sign, okay? Or it'd be y equals the absolute value of x minus 4, okay? Or it'd be y equals x minus 4 in parentheses, that whole thing squared. All of that would move things to the right 4 because I'm subtracting on the inside. Okay, and then vice versa here, if we come back to our calculator to move things to the left, you would just then have to go and change it to a plus. I'm going to use 2. All right, and then we graph it, and that moved it to the left then. Okay, so if we come back to our organizer, so to move it to the left, that means I'm adding a number on the inside. Okay, and again, for examples, we could do the absolute value of x, or the square root of x plus 2. We could do the absolute value of x plus 2. You could do parentheses x plus 2, all of that raised to the third power. Okay, all of this would move things to the left 2 spaces. Right, so the big thing to notice is if things are being added or subtracted on the inside or the outside, and these are our examples here. Something that's being added to the outside or subtracted to the outside moves it up or down. Something that's being added or subtracted on the inside makes it move up, or makes it move right or left. Right, and our last one here is reflection, okay? Meaning I am taking my function and I am now flipping it upside down. So if I put in my x squared here, my quadratic, what I really want to happen is I now want this to be upside down, okay? So that's what we're working for. That's what our goal is. So if I come up here, we already added or subtracted numbers. So maybe you played with some negatives in different places. All right, if I put a negative x squared in the calculator, that made it go and flip upside down. Let me erase my pink there. Okay, so that is how you go and get something to go upside down, by putting a negative in front. So if we put a negative in the front, okay, that will make it flip upside down. So you could have y equals a negative x squared, y equals a negative absolute value of x, y equals a negative x to the third, y equals negative square root of x, okay? Now, one thing that I do want you guys to notice, hopefully you wrote all of these down, but there are times where things will be doing 2 things at once. So things might be flipped upside down and they might be moving to the right, or they might be moving to the left and they might be moving upwards. So if I come up here to my calculator and I type in we can use x squared again because we know what that one looks like. So say that I have my my parentheses, and I'm putting my x in, and I go +2, and I square that, and then I go -5. All right, so now that I have two things going on here, this tells me that two different things are going to be happening to my function. So this +2, since I'm adding to the inside, tells me that it's going to be moving to the left 2 spaces. The -5, since I'm subtracting a number on the outside, coming to subtracting the outside, that means it's moving down 5. So when I go to look, my vertex of my quadratic, instead of being at the 0, 0 mark, it's going to be moved to the left 2 because of the +2, and it's going to be moved down 5 because of the -5. And if I graph it, that's exactly what happened. It moved to the left 2 and down 5. All right, so you're going to be working next of matching the descriptions up. Yes, you have the calculator, but make sure that you can also kind of use your graphic organizer to understand what's going on next. If you have any questions, guys, please let me know. Have a great rest of your day.